Now, pupils at thousands of schools in South Africa still use pit latrines. Parliament has given the Department of Basic Education 60 days to outline how it will eradicate these dangerous structures. For more on this, we are joined by Yongama Zigebe, who is UDM Secretary General. Mr. Zigebe, pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. It still boggles the mind that in 2024 we're still speaking about schools that have pit latrines in this country. Speak to us firstly about what prompted you to petition for the eradication of these pit latrines.
Good afternoon, Kantla, and to your viewers at home. It was prompted by me having to visit one of the schools where one of my nieces or cousins go to. And upon arriving at that particular school, the welcome I got was a stench of feces. And I was wondering, where is this coming from? And right now I'm approaching the classrooms and going to the office in order to ask to see this little one. And just behind the offices you find that there are pit latrines that are there, which are opened and very dangerous in nature. And when you look on the other side, there are bushes there. When you speak to the principals, they tell you that even these pit latrines are full. They're packed, and now they would have to resort into, relieving themselves in the bushes. And I thought to myself, what is it that our government is doing in order to do this thing? And we know of the issue of pit latrines way back, 2018, and even years back when the government was still speaking about it, before we even had a case of Michael Komape who died in a pit latrine. Yeah. Last year, you'd know that Pisakanya in the Eastern Cape fell into that fate. So it was prompted by that, and I thought, what is a platform that I would use in order to elevate this thing, not just to lawmakers and parliament, but for South Africans to rally behind this and add more voices on it. And that's when, as a Nguvu Change leader, we were using a platform for petitioning, which is change.org, and that's where we put up the petition, and it garnered about 5,000, about 5,000 signatures. But then while we're still collecting signatures, because I thought in the back of my mind, at least 10,000 to 1 million, then it would have, an impact. The case in the Eastern Cape occurred, and we're like, this is 5,000 voices should be enough, to have the government, to have parliament, to listen to us, and to actually do something about this scourge.
You mentioned the name of Michael Komape, and that story is one that created a lot of shockwaves across the country. But some still feeling that even despite such a tragedy, and many others like you mentioned as well, it would seem that this issue is not taken with the seriousness that it deserves. Why do you think this is the case?
I think we have a government here who's not taking anything seriously that is happening in South Africa. I think because the president in his SONA said that we're resilient people and we're hopeful people, and we're taken advantage of because they know we're resilient and hopeful. And it's really sad and painful for a government to utter those words to South Africans who are suffering. So no one who goes into government who has the passion and the zeal to fix these issues that are happening in our schools. We're talking about pit latrines. Before Michael's case, the government was still speaking about it. 2015, 2014, in my research, government was making these promises. They were having, timelines and deadlines. The deadline of 2025 is not the first deadline that we are having to hear about. There are other deadlines. Even when the private sector came and spent and gave millions and millions of rands into eradicating pit latrines, nothing has happened. And whatever that they claim to have done, it happens at a snail pace. Look at the Michael's case. It went to court, and it took the nation, and indeed, as you say, by a shockwave. And the moment that story died down, the government got relaxed while they were given a 12-month period to eradicate pit latrines in all schools in South Africa. And that 12-month period from 2018 up until now, how many 12 months have we passed for us to be able? So we're having a government which is very complacent. They're very comfortable. They know, our people will just complain. After a week, it's another story, and that's where it ends.
You speak about your interactions with the people of the Eastern Cape as well, as you've gone on this fact-finding mission of sorts. But how widespread is this problem?
It is mostly the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo. You know, they account of many of these pit latrines because they've got the largest. But also Northwest, just here, 2 hours from Joburg, I mean from Gauteng, they also have pit latrines. And also Northern Cape, just a bit of them. But the entire country, except for the Western Cape, does have these problems in their schools. But then you find that when we sat down and said, but it's not just pit latrines, but the using of bucket systems. Yeah. It is pit latrines because it is dangerous in the nature in itself, and children may fall into those things. So we have a situation which is widespread, not just in schools, but in communities. As we're speaking about the Eastern Cape, these are kids who are coming from homes who are using pit latrines. They go to schools, they're using pit latrines. So the life they know in between home and school, it's a life of pit latrines. It's everywhere. They have to get used to be surrounded by a stench of feces every day of their lives, and that's very indignifying. And as we're saying that this is inhumane, and we're trampling upon the human rights of our children and the communities which still faces this scourge in South Africa, and that is not right. We've seen the Human Rights Commission trying to do something, raising these issues, but the government, who is supposed now to put things into place, they're not doing anything. To our surprise, last year when we started this petition, the government of the Eastern Cape had returned millions of rands which were allocated for schools infrastructure back to National Treasury, but they have an issue of pit latrines within their schools. And we're asking ourselves, why are you not using this particular? There's money for it, then why don't you use it? Then we found that it's either it's better when it goes back, because when it does not go back, it goes to corruption, because they need to line up their pockets with public funds and everything. So we have a government whereby they do not know what they're doing. And secondly, in their DNA, they've got a corrupt DNA. Wherever they see money and everything, they know this one is for us and not for the people. Even the national chairperson of the ANC had said that Boers were also stealing, but they will steal 2 cents and bring services with the rest. But for them, they steal everything. What is that? It is saying that we have a government which is, in its entirety, in its overall, it is corrupt in nature. And that's where we need, as our people, we need to come up. Hence the petition. Once we raise those 5,000 plus voices, we're like, South Africans can actually do something if you're given a platform to do it. And the 29th of May is that platform again for us to be able to, to elevate these issues, check out the government that we do not want, have another government that is actually going to eradicate these pit latrines, because these pit latrines are, in the actual sense, are killing the future of our country. Without those kids, there's no future. And a country that cannot take care of its children is going nowhere very fast.
It would be amiss of me not to also pose questions to you pertaining to the UDM, of course, launching your party's manifesto.
Yes.
What are some of the key takeaways that you take from the address being made by Bantu Olomisa?
As a young person seated here, speaking to other young people in the country, and these are challenges that have spanned over 30 years and even before then, that young people facing unemployment, those who have graduated cannot be employed. We've seen reports of qualified doctors, while the public health system does not have doctors and all that. It is a manifesto that is youth-centric. Yes, everybody else is included in that, but young people find their expression, their voices in that manifesto, because we went around the country, having these conversations with them through our workshops and everything, and we found that these are things that our young people want us to, to focus into. And also, when we're speaking about the focus, redirecting the focus from a minuscule 3 million, which everybody else lines up to go and get jobs, which is a white population, and then change government's focus. Not to say we're chucking these ones out, but we're changing our focus to saying that we need to rebuild the 60 million plus. We need to have black industrialists. We need to have innovators. We need people who are going to create businesses so that they're able to employ each other, so that our black people are able to take part in the economic value chain, not just be consumers, but also be creators. We're looking at, like just right now, the president was speaking about corruption. Why, if this UDM has been, in betting on this wicket of corruption for 27 years now. It's because without corruption, at least we would have 98% of what we're crying about today is resolved. Because every money that the public purse has to go to somebody's pocket or has to go to a certain political party because they need to run their campaigns, and it does not go to the basic services. So we need to make sure that we get rid of corruption, rid South Africa of corruption. And once we do that, then we're able to employ these doctors, we're able to employ these young people and make them artisans. So that they also become employers in a way. There's also a part of incentivizing small businesses and also regulating the township economy and the SMME sector for South Africans only to play in that space. Because right now there's no space which is open in the economy for our people to play or, so that they become economically active. So that's one of my takes, and I know that young people outside, they're really looking forward into engaging us further on this.